Rob Dauster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fink.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Children.
DJ Khaled, you know the big DJ Khaled guy?
Hands brought up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastner.
You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal.
Drink responsibly tonight. I'll be drinking with you.
Jarrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
On this Saturday night, January the 13th, 2024, I'm John Fanta, Jeff Goodman, Rob Dauster are here. Welcome to the Field of 68 After Dark. We're with you for the next over an hour, breaking down a stacked Saturday of college hoops. Guys, these next 7 Saturdays, 8 Saturdays, there's just nothing like them when we get into the thick of things. And here we go. I'm going to tee you up right away, Jeff Goodman. The biggest headline on this college basketball Saturday is?
I think Carolina is a legitimate Final Four contender. I saw them a week ago at Clemson, and it was their second straight road win. And now they're 5-0 in the league for the first time in about 8 years. I like them now because for a couple reasons. Number one, they guard. They actually guard, and they're showing their toughness. Number two, they play together. Number three, they move the ball when it matters. Now, they weren't in a close game today against Syracuse, Fanta, but it's not just the Caleb Love AAU show at the end of a game where you're relying on him to just jack up a shot, and it might go in, it might not. Now they got several guys who can make plays. Obviously, RJ Davis is the guy who gets it done the most, but he's not just, again, jacking shots, praying if they go in. I love this Carolina team, and I think they're a legitimate Final Four contender right now.
I tried to tell you that last weekend, and nobody wanted to listen to me. I think the biggest thing is that we are seeing North Carolina get out there and guard in a way that we haven't really seen North Carolina do in recent years. And it's not really the reputation that they have. Right now they are actually number 5 on KenPom in adjusted defensive efficiency in the country, not just in the ACC, in the country. Look at the numbers that they're putting up over the course of the last 5 games. And I think, we talked about it, how going on the road when everybody else that is kind of in that top tier goes on the road and struggles. We saw Arizona lose on the road tonight. We saw Kentucky lose on the road tonight. We saw number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 5 in college basketball go on the road and lose this week. They picked up wins at Pitt, at Clemson, and at NC State already this month alone. So I think that it's a combination of being able to play and defend at a level that we haven't seen before, having a point guard I guess a lead guard is not really the point guard, but a lead guard in RJ Davis that can go and get you a bucket when you need it, while also having a bunch of guys on that roster that are willing to accept and understand that, like, okay, this is my role, this is my job. And it's a lot of fun to watch this team right now because we know what they can be when they dial it up offensively, right? We've seen them put 100 on Tennessee. Who puts 100 points on Tennessee? Putting 130 on Syracuse is nothing. Everybody can put up 100 on Syracuse. Syracuse guards, like, they have John Fanta and Jeff Goodman playing at the 1 of the 2. I
would be a 4.
Powerful.
I would be a 4 with my toughness.
Yeah,
okay.
I can tell you right now, I wouldn't be a 1.
Oh, look, you're an elite. You're elite in ball screens, Fanta. Whatever we would call it. But no, I mean, look, it's the combination of being able to guard and the fact that they have that explosive of an offense. Like, that's the cheat code, right? And you got 2 point guards. Look at all the teams that have won national titles since 2009. They all, for the most part, except for Kansas in 2022, played with 2 point guards. What does Carolina have? Elliot Cadeau and RJ Davis.
The only thing I worry about, Rob, the only thing I worry about is that Cadeau can't shoot. That's the only thing. He's got to be able to make them pay when they leave him wide open and dare him to shoot. And he will shoot it. That's the only good thing is, like, he's not going to sit there and be afraid to shoot it, but he's got to make, even if he shoots 40 from the field and, 33 from 3, he's just got to make enough to keep him honest because I do love the pace they play at when he's on the court offensively.
I mean, look, I hear you. And it's a question that we've had with other point guards before, right? Severe Wheeler at Kentucky last year immediately comes to mind. DeJuan Harris at Kansas immediately comes to mind. But I think when you have Harrison Ingram out there shooting 40+% from three, you got Cormac Ryan, who I want to say he's shooting like 28 or 29% right now, but we know what he is as a shooter. RJ Davis knocks him down at an unbelievable clip. I get what you're saying. I don't think it's as much of an issue specifically for this group because you got three guys that are absolute snipers around them. So the space is going to be there. It's not like the floor is going to get constricted. But no, I hear you. I get what you're saying.
Jeff, this run of 6 straight wins has come after they gave up 87 in back-to-back games to Kentucky and UConn. How much credit do you give Hubert Davis?
No, a lot. But again, I give him credit for, you go in the portal and sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get in the portal, right? But I think these guys, when you talk to Baycott and RJ like I have recently, the one thing they'll say, like Cormac really fit this team. He's vocal. Baycott and RJ are not vocal. They're not. Hubert said it which is interesting because Baycott's one of the best quotes of all time. But on the court, he's not vocal. Neither is RJ. So they got Cormac, they got Harrison Ingram. And again, I think these guys have tasted losing. And I think they hate it. And they understand now that, again, losing, you can put up whatever numbers you want if you're Harrison Ingram or Cormac Ryan. Nobody is paying attention to you when you're losing at Stanford or Notre Dame the last couple of years. But now you sacrifice, and everybody's paying attention to you. And everybody's kissing your ass right now as you're walking around Chapel Hill, and they should be because you guys are playing the right way, and Hubert has figured out. Listen, I asked RJ, I said, is Hubert coaching any differently this year? He said, not really. He just doesn't have to talk as much because we've got guys like Cormac and Harrison Ingram.
And here's the wild thing about that, John, not to cut you off, so you're about to say something, but if you go back and look at the takes that people had in May, in June, in July, it was that Hubert he's not getting it done in the portal. It wasn't that, oh, look at who they got. They got this guy that could be a leader in Cormac Ryan, and they got this versatile 3/4 that could be a shooter and a playmaker and guard up and guard down and get 19 rebounds in a road game, in a rivalry game in Harrison Ingram, right? It wasn't that they're bringing in Jalen Withers, who could be functional as a backup 4/backup 5, be able to space the floor a little. Like, that wasn't what people were saying. We were questioning whether it was a smart idea to have Elliot Cadeau reclassified because point guards that classify up rarely, if ever, have the level of success that you would think they would based on where their ranking is and what their pedigree is coming out of high school, right? It was that Cormac Ryan isn't going to be good enough defensively. It was that they're not going to have enough guys to be able to guard. It's that they're not going to have enough guys to be able to play that you need to, the way that you need to be able to play in 2024 to have success. It was, what are you going to do with all these guys around Armando Baycott, right? That's the most impressive part to me, is that the narrative around this program was not what it is right now. And I just think it's such an impressive job being able to develop that, right? And we're going to talk about who our coach of the year is at this point in the season. And I think there's a very strong argument to make that Hubert Davis, whether or not he's talking more in practice or not, being able to get these guys to buy in and do what they're doing right now is incredibly impressive to me. And real quick, I got to say this. Vaulted is an app that allows you to participate in daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. It is the place that you can store your own predictions forever. And by using the Vaulted Challenge feature, you can prove you're smarter than your friends like John Fanta and your enemies like Jeff Goodman. Go download the Vaulted app. That's VLTED to challenge your friends, store your predictions, and join daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. If you look at it right there on the screen, it says that my Vaulted challenge is that North Carolina can get to a Final Four. And I still think that's what it is. And Goodman, you already said that you're going to basically agree with me on this point.
I did not say I agree with you about anything, okay?
Well, listen, here's the thing. So, okay. Well, here's the thing. I think that if you look at the way that teams are built, right, assuming that UConn gets Donovan Clingan back, I mean, I think that if you look at UConn and you look at UNC, those are two of the top 4 teams right now. I think UNC belongs to be in that conversation with the likes of UConn, with the likes of Purdue, with the likes of whoever you want to put up there, right, as the biggest threat to go out and win a national title. It's wild to me that we're at this point. I don't think I would have thought that even 3 weeks ago. It's incredible what this team has done over the course of the last month to be able to improve.
But that's what happens. That's generally what happens, right? Especially in this day and age when there's no dominant team. You have these stretches. And again, Carolina could, I don't think they're going to start one of those stretches anytime soon because they have Louisville at home on Wednesday. But again, there's just not a
Miami
huge
probably did the same thing
gap.
for the record.
Yes, very true. There's just not a huge gap. So I think you're going to have a bunch of these teams that when they go on the road and they play tough road games, they're going to – like Carolina's not going to run through this league. We know that. Duke's not running through this league. They may be the two best teams in the league, but there's not going to be a ton of separation in most of these leagues this year.
Okay, but then that leads to the next best question then, Jeff Goodman, because as we hit the 10-minute mark, we can trickle into what happened at Cameron Indoor Stadium, where Duke avenged a loss earlier this year to Georgia Tech, and it got scary at times. But Tyrese Proctor made some big shots. Kyle Filipowski scored 30, and the Blue Devils, they win 84-79. But, Jeff, that leads me to the question here, and you'll get to your takeaways from this game. Who would you lean towards right now as the best team in the ACC?
So today it's North Carolina. But ask me that question in a month, and I want to see how Tyrese Proctor continues to develop here, and maybe with McCain, if they can get going together and Flip can look like he has the last couple games, you know what? I might have a different answer. Today it's North Carolina because I think that team has gelled quickly. Duke has had, some issues, right? I mean, obviously with Proctor's injury and his slow start, that has factored into their kind of up and down play. And, even today, Proctor was the best game he's played all year offensively. And they barely beat a Georgia Tech team that's going to be lucky to get in the NIT at home.
Yeah, they really struggled defensively today. And I would put a lot of that down to not having Mark Mitchell. They don't have I would say a ton of great on-ball defenders or perimeter defenders, and they really don't have any rim protection when Mitchell isn't out there. If you go and look at who they started tonight, it was the four guards and Kyle Filipowski. They basically had Tyrese Proctor playing the four tonight, and Georgia Tech kind of ball screened them to death. And I think that it is impressive that they were able to come back and get that one. I think they were now by 12 in the second half. Kyle Filipowski had 30, 13 forces, 2 steals, 2 blocks, which is just an absurd stat line. But I would tend to agree with you at this point. I do think that North Carolina is the more balanced team. And I beat the point to death, but the way that they're playing right now is just, it gives them the floor defensively, right? And then what they can be offensively. Now it'll be interesting to see what happens if 3-point regression hits. They've allowed just 18% from beyond the arc shooting from their opponents over the course of the last 5 games. And that's something that can be a little bit fluky in the numbers. And I don't want to say luck because that's the wrong way to phrase it, but sometimes that can be something that will regress to the mean at some point. But I think you're right. I think it is North Carolina. Is it crazy to say I think North Carolina is the better team? I think that they are a very real title contender, but that Duke might actually have a higher ceiling if everything comes together for them. If Tyrese Proctor ends up being the guy we think he could be, if Jeremy McCain keeps making shots, if Jeremy Roach keeps playing the way that he's playing, and they get Mark Mitchell back and he's healthy. I think he's got a sprained knee. It doesn't sound like it's something too serious, but I think that you can say both of those things and be right, that North Carolina is better right now. North Carolina might be a top 3 to 5 team in the country, and that Duke might actually have a higher ceiling on a game-by-game basis. Am I crazy?
No, because
no, that's a consistent take from anybody sane, I think. Right.
Yeah, and if you looked at any preseason rankings, did we at the Field of 68 not have Duke at number 1 in the preseason? So that would reveal the upside. What's it take for them, Jeff? What's it take for Duke to get to that echelon?
Well, I mean, Proctor showed some of it today. I mean, again, if they can get – we thought Flip and Proctor were going to be the 1-2 punch. They were today, but McCain struggled. And as Rob said, Mark Mitchell is a huge piece of this team on the defensive and energy, and even offensively, you're not running anything for him. And that's the beauty of Mark Mitchell, right? Like, you don't have to run anything for him because he'll just go out and get on the offensive glass and again, get out in transition and get his points that way. That's the beauty from him. I mean, if you look at it today, right, they had to play, and Ryan Young was good, but he played 22 minutes today, right? Caleb Foster played 28 minutes, had 3 points. McCain didn't do anything in 38 minutes really offensively. So, again, they were thinner on the bench. They had to play Foster more minutes. He didn't really give them much. So Mitchell's huge. All their guys are huge. But again, listen, to me, the best thing that happened today was Tyrese Proctor. I would have taken a loss if I was Duke, in a way, just to get Tyrese Proctor going, because you're not going anywhere without him. In March, you are not winning. You're not going to Final Four. You're not having any shot without Tyrese Proctor playing the way he did today.
So then here's the thought that I have, Rob, off of that, because I agree totally with you, Jeff, that Proctor's the most important piece to this puzzle. I feel like the natural thought when you look at Duke is, okay, year one of the Shire era was what it was. They showed some good signs, but at the end of the day, they lost in the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. Rob, we know what the ceiling could be. The ceiling could be that Duke's in Arizona at the Final Four if everything pans out. But what does Jon Scheyer need to end up doing in year two for this to be viewed as the right direction type of season for the Duke Blue Devils?
I mean, they have to keep winning. He's doing it right now. Right? I don't think you have to win the ACC regular season title if North Carolina is as good as they are right now. I think that you can see the growth within this team. We saw the growth within this program last year. You see the pieces that they're getting on the recruiting trail. You see the guys that they're going to be bringing in next season. I don't think the bottom is going to fall out of this team. I think that there are difficulties involved with rotating pieces in and out of the lineup, as important as Mark Mitchell and as important as Tyrese Proctor are. We are seeing Scheyer kind of do the same thing that Dan Hurley is as he's dealing with Steph Castle being out and Donovan Clingan being out and being able to keep on winning games. Even if it's not the prettiest thing in the world, you know what matters at the end of the day? They were down by 10 in the second half, and they found a way to get the victory. And to me, that says a lot, especially when that's a team that already beat you on the road earlier this season. So I think that he is doing it, Fan. I don't think it's something where we have to look here and say we need to question Jon Scheyer for any. I don't see any reason why you would do that at this point. They're 13-3.
No,
they're 4-1 in the ACC. No, I know what you're saying. I know, and I'm not saying that you are, but it's just I think he's doing everything that he needs to be doing right now, right? I don't know how much more he could be doing in this moment when you consider the totality of everything involved.
No, in this moment,
Just
no.
play
But
TJ
Jeff,
Power. Play TJ Power more. That's the only thing he should be doing.
Jeff, we both know, everybody here knows what, and some of it's BS. Like, some of it is overrated, and it's going to always come. It's like the Purdue FDU crap. But when you're the coach at Duke, you're under the spotlight. We also know that for this team, with all that talent, and you're saying all this about what they could be, second weekend minimum for this Duke team.
Well, that's the thing. Okay, so if you don't beat Carolina in the regular season, that's okay, but you better not lose in the second round of the NCAA tournament. So, it can't be both here. You can't finish second fiddle unless, like, Carolina ends up, winning the whole thing or something like that. But for the most part, you've got to make some noise in the NCAA tournament this year if you're Scheyer, or else there's going to be pressure on you next year. And you got Cooper Flagg coming in, and that's fine. There's going to be a ton of pressure on you next year because you have Cooper Flagg coming in, and it's going to be a complete circus, and the expectations are going to be probably even out of whack with having the likely number one overall pick next year.
That is the biggest thing right there. The single biggest thing is that with Cooper Flagg coming in, the amount of hype that's going to surround that is going to be astronomical, right? It's going to be insane. It's going to be like Zion times Trae Young times Ben Simmons, all of that. It's going to be completely bonkers around there. And being able to live up to that hype is not going to be an easy thing to do, because every single misstep is going to be scrutinized over and over and over again, probably on this show as much as anywhere else, right? And we're going to be a part of that. But it is what it is. It's part of being at Duke.
Leading the way.
It's part of having that job, and it's part of bringing in a player of that caliber. And if you go into it, and this is the one of the more intelligent things that you've said, Jeff, if you go into that having already finished behind Carolina, 2 first weekend exits, and then you got Cooper Flagg, and you don't go out there and look like one of the best teams in the history of college basketball, then you're going to have people saying, oh, he's not the guy. He's not here to replace Coach K. He's not going to get the job done. Even though, like, Duke's been pretty damn good for the last 18 months since Jon Scheyer's been in charge. So that's where it comes into. It's less about what's actually happening and more about the way that all of that is going to combine to create pressure on him and create pressure on the program and the job that he's doing.
I would say that that's all the more reason why getting to a Sweet 16 this year with this team, with their upside, is important, because you want momentum at the very least. Can they get to the Final Four? Of course they can. And you get to the second weekend of this tournament, you think the first weekend's random? It's so damn hard just to win 2 games. We keep saying it on our show. It's on our DTF pod, Rob. It's not 1 6-game tournament. It's 6 one-game tournaments. And that means that there's complications that come with that. All right, we are going to take a quick timeout. Up next, we're going to another Blue Blood. Kentucky was in action today. What happened to the Wildcats? Should Big Blue Nation have any sort of concern? Plus, Arizona, another scare in the Pac-12? Drama in Pullman? Can Kyle Smith dance? We'll talk about it. This is the Field of 68 After Dark.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 each and every week of the college basketball season. We have a special offer that will be available starting on Tuesday, January 9th, and running through Monday, February 12th, the morning after Super Bowl 58. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, in honor of the big game, you can use the bonus code FIELD158 and you'll get $158 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD158. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive $158 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD158 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create separate accounts in each state. It's easy, it's simple, it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the heart of the college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odd boosts, and my favorite, a nice juicy parlay boost. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Field 158.
We love BetMGM, and we love all of you tuning into the Field of 68 After Dark. On Fanta, Jeff Goodman, Rob Dauster. Let's get right back to it, gentlemen. We've talked about Duke and North Carolina, so let's stay on the blue blood trail. Final score from College Station earlier in overtime. Texas A&M 97, Kentucky 92. Wildcats fall to 12-3 on the season. Jeff Goodman, your reaction to this game is?
Listen, no shame. I mean, you pulled one out last week in Gainesville in a close one. You're not going to win them all on the road. And again, Texas A&M needed this one. Wade Taylor's fun to watch at times, but man, he can be up and down. Tyrese Radford was great for A&M. Here's my biggest problem. My biggest problem with Kentucky today was in the overtime period, the fact that the shots were going to Dillingham and Wagner instead of Reeves and Shepard. That's my biggest issue is, to me, Reed Shepard's got to be a little bit more assertive. He made a huge rebound at the end of regulation and then 2 free throws to get it to overtime. But I just think, to me, Reeves, the veteran and the guy who plays like a veteran, and I know Dillingham's been terrific for much of the year. I get that, but I trust Reeves shooting the ball more than Wagner, and I trust Reed Sheppard having the ball in his hands, and I want him to be a little bit more assertive. So those guys, I think Reeves and Sheppard had like one shot in the final 5 minutes, where, again, Wagner and Dillingham had like 6 or 7.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I don't necessarily disagree, but I don't think you can take much away from going on the road and taking the team that was the preseason SEC favorite to overtime, right? I thought that if there was any question about Kentucky in this game, it was defense for the first probably 35 minutes, right? Like, I don't think that they really got enough stops. I think that Boots Radford kind of got wherever he wanted, especially early in the second half. I thought that Wade Taylor put on a show in the second half, and sometimes with a guy like that, when he gets cooking, there's really not all that much you can do. You just got to kind of hope that he misses the shots and make them as difficult as possible. But, it was, to me, we kind of saw what happens when Ogana and Yeso, when he gets going. Like, I think that being able to get him in there, 10 boards, a couple on the offensive end, I think he had 5 blocks. You can see different ways that Kentucky can go about playing in different lineups that they can roll out there. So I think there's actually a lot of positives to take out of this. And I know that Cal probably doesn't want to hear that. I don't know how many Kentucky fans want to hear that. I certainly know Rick Pitino would be devastated if he heard me saying that there's positives to take out of a loss. He probably would not be a fan of that.
You
but
can't say that.
you can't say that around Rick Pitino. But I do. Yeah. It's the road in college basketball. They're going to feel like they probably had a chance to win this one and steal one that they didn't deserve to win, to be frank, because I don't think they played well enough defensively to win this game.
Well, they did that last week. They did that last week.
Yeah.
Right. You're not going to steal them all on the road. I mean,
no. And the biggest thing to me is, like, just to put a bow in it, just you got to be able to guard better, right? I'm not saying they have to hold teams to 55 points, but in the first half, Texas A&M got pretty much whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. And when you are Kentucky and you can score, sometimes you kind of feel like, okay, if they get this one, I'll go get it back, right? I feel like they need to take a little bit more ownership on the defensive end of the floor. But, I mean, there's freshmen out there, man. It's the first time they're playing road games in the SEC. It is what it is. They started 4 freshmen, right? It is what it is.
But we knew that that's what it would probably be this season. We knew that that's what they were going to get into, which, look, they've exceeded my expectations. I think they've exceeded others' expectations to this point. So you got to give them credit for all that they've done. I think my thing is, Jeff, I can't get this vision out of my head of Kentucky in a round of 32 or Sweet 16 or, for that matter, Elite 8 game. You're not blowing everybody out. Yeah, the chances of you doing that, Connecticut did that last year. Congratulations, Rob Dauster. And we've seen it before in the NCAA tournament with a young team. You're not running ship to a Final Four. Do you have the kind of talent to get to a Final Four? There is no question that you do. But these NCAA tournament games, the chances of one of your first 2 or 3, if you're able to get that far, of that coming down to the last 3 minutes of the game, and you got to play half-court basketball. So you have to, one, guard, but the second thing is you have to shot economize. And what I mean by that is you've got to pick who needs to have the ball in their hands and who should be taking the shots. And the great teams, they have guys that know, I need to identify who my best 1 or 2 guys is that needs to get those looks. And that comes down to what? It comes down to coaching. And I think, we saw it early in the season, granted, but late against Kansas at the Champions Classic. We saw it in overtime today. And when we're being critical of Kentucky, we fully know that they are a national title contender, but we also have to talk about them in terms of being in that conversation. And Goodman, I think that would be my biggest thing, is that when team gets late, do they know – go ahead, Rob. Do they know who's taking the right shots?
Yeah, and I get that point, guys, but my response would be is that they have 4 guards on the floor who on any given night could be the best player on the court, right? Like, we could sit here and we could say Reed Sheppard needs to get more shots down the stretch and Antonio Reeves needs to get more shots down the stretch. Well, the only reason that game was in overtime was because Robert Dillingham hit 3 straight threes in like 2 minutes down the stretch, of regulation. So like I get what you're saying, but it's also the reason why Kentucky is as good as they are is because you don't know who you can
Reeves
game
had
plan
22
for.
points. Reeves had 22
Yeah.
points in this game. He's your
Yes, and
veteran.
Robert
He's
Dillingham-
been your best
Okay, but
overall
yes,
player
and
this year.
No, I get it, right? And you got to run more stuff from him. And I thought that they tried to, and that A&M actually defended it fairly well down the stretch. But my counter to that would be Robert Dillingham was like 3 for. Yeah, Robert Dillingham was 3 for 9 at the end, and then hit 3 straight threes. Like the value of having those dudes is that they are too young to realize the moment that they're in. Right? They don't realize you shouldn't be winning games. Robert Dillingham probably has no idea that what he did was ridiculous tonight. He's just like, yeah, I was out there hooping. Right? You're a freshman on the road, hit 3 straight threes down the stretch. One was a logo 3. So like I trust me, I hear what you're saying, but I also think that the threat of Kentucky and what makes them so dangerous is they have 4 guys in their backcourt that on any given possession can beat you. So sometimes, yes, you got to run stuff for your veterans, but also like you got to sometimes let those freshmen cook too. I think that it's that the balance is there. And I don't think that a game where you lose on the road to a preseason top 15 team is necessarily the place where you can put a flag in the ground and say, this is what they're, you know what I mean? Like they took the L. It is what it is.
They were
not going to win them all like that.
They were also losing some of those 50-50 balls down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was part of it. Reed Sheppard got one at the end, but a lot of those Texas A&M was way more active on the offensive glass. They were getting a bunch of second chance opportunities.
Kentucky also got a lot of 50-50 calls.
They did get a couple of them, which was a little surprising in College Station. Got a couple good ones late.
But Goodman, you're right on. Like I had to give this on the defensive end because Kentucky's outside the top 15 KenPom in defensive efficiency. They have room to grow on that end of the floor.
Well, here's the other thing, guys. Aaron Bradshaw was not on the court all game because he was in foul trouble right out of the gate. So yes. I think, again, we forget that Aaron Bradshaw missed all preseason and the beginning of the year, and they're trying to kind of integrate him in. And Cal knows nobody's been more up and down than Aaron Bradshaw, and rightfully so, because, again, he missed so much time. That's going to be the key for me. The key for me is going to be Aaron Bradshaw because, again, like you said, Rob, they've got 4 guards that can all cook. And you got to figure out which 3 you're going to play at certain times. One might be off. They might play together. I mean, again, I don't think you can take Sheppard, Reeves, or Dillingham off the court at the end of the game. I think you got to have those 3. And DJ Wagner can be terrific at times driving downhill. But if I'm opposing teams, I'm just saying, like, let it fly from deep. I'm honestly, I'm sagging off him and daring him to shoot the ball from deep. But Bradshaw's the key for me because – if he comes along, he fits in so well with those guards. But again, he's been super inconsistent and for good reason.
So the Wildcats fall. Texas A&M, again, credit to them. They really needed this game, and they got it. And the Aggies find a way to win by 5. And Wade Taylor and Tyrese Radford are one of the best duos when they're cooking in college basketball. Let's turn to the Pac-12. Okay.
The other Wildcats that fell. The other Wildcats that fell, Fanta. The other Wildcats that fell.
Goodman, please let the professional handle the teases and the transitions. We've seen you try to host. Please let the pro do this.
The other thing is when you toss, you have to be very short and quick because producer Trevor, I want to leave as much room for you guys to then cook, to then get it rolling. So, okay, Washington State 73, Arizona 70. If I gave you a concern meter from 1 to 10, and with 10 being the highest concern, Jeff Goodman, where would that meter be with Arizona at the moment?
Overall, not that high. It'd be like a 3 or 4. But with Kai Boswell right now, probably high with Kai Boswell because he was so good that first game when we saw him against, or I think it was at their second game of the season, Arizona at Duke. Boswell looked like a top 5 point guard or what was going to be a top 5 point guard in the country. He was tough. He was fearless. He controlled the tempo. He made big shots. He set the tone. He did everything for that Arizona team. And he just hasn't been very good, especially in their losses. I mean, if you look at it, Stanford, 2 for 11, 5 points in the loss. FAU, 4 for 16, 12 points. Purdue, 3 for 9, 6 points. Overall, 25% from the field, 3 for 19 from 3 in those 3 losses. So, and again, he wasn't good tonight. He didn't score tonight. He was 0 for 5. He didn't have an assist in 25 minutes. So he's been brutal. And again, there's a reason I say point guard play, point guard play, point guard play. That's the key for this Arizona team. You can get all the points you want out of Caleb Love. But if Colin Boswell isn't playing well, you're not going to go deep in the tournament. And honestly, you may not win the Pac-12 regular season title.
I absolutely despise when I have to agree with you on things, but you're 100% correct. On Thursday night, I believe it was, Fanta, no, you know what it was? It was last Sunday. Malik Hall had a game where he went 0 from the floor with 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks. And we were pretty hard on him, right? That is why Michigan State lost that game. That is why they've been struggling, is because they can't get what they need out of one of their best players. Well, Kai Boswell is one of Arizona's best players, and he literally did not do anything positive tonight if you are looking at the stat sheet. It's different when you're watching the game, but 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks, 0 for 5 from the floor, 0 for 2 from the line, a turnover and 2 fouls in 25 minutes. That's not acceptable from your starting point guard and a guy who legitimately has had games where he's looked like a top 5 player at the position in college basketball. He's got to be better, right? You got to have someone that can set the table, because the thing about this Arizona team is that the reason why we like them so much is they have a whole bunch of finishers, and in the moments when things aren't really working, you got Caleb Love who can kind of bail you out on a possession-by-possession basis. But when Kai Boswell isn't out there and he's not able to set the table and he's not able to get Umar Ballo post touches where he needs it, and he's not able to create situations where Keyshawn Johnson can finish a lob, catch and shoot a 3, where you don't have Pelle Larsson being able to put in positions where he can succeed, then you have to rely on Caleb Love to do everything. And I thought Caleb Love was really good tonight. But if you're going on the road and you're playing against a Washington State team that gets a career game out of Isaac Jones, that gets 18 points, 5 assists, and 4 boards from Myles Rice, who we're going to talk to here in a little bit, and you get nothing out of your point guard, Caleb Love is not going to be able to win those games for you all on his own. We saw it last year with North Carolina. He had 28 points, 8 boards, 10 for 25 from the floor, kind of inefficient, not exactly what you're looking for, right? I don't think that if you're Arizona, you want 25 shots from Caleb Love. You want him in that 15-shot range, right? And if he has to carry you offensively, then that's just not – and I'm not trying to take a shot at Caleb Love. I think he's had an All-American caliber season. I think he's been terrific this year. I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah.
But it's just you can't have one guy doing everything for you and expect to be able to go on the road and win games in good leagues. That's just point blank, period. What it is.
Oh, and I think, Jeff, that when you look at this team in general, like Umar Ballo's having a solid year. It's not a great season. Keyshawn Johnson has cooled off after his strong start. And you're not taking a shot at.
They got a bunch of good players, man. They got a bunch of good players. Pelle Larsson, Umar Ballo, Boswell's played. Again, other than these losses, he's played okay. Like they've got a bunch of good dudes. Caleb Love has been, again, explosive at times, but we still look at his inefficiency. Like, he's still not the most efficient dude. He'll make a big shot, but like in that FAU game, he'll make one big 3 and then he'll miss 2 more. So, again, the question is, what do you have alongside Caleb Love? Like, Jaden Bradley is a great backup point guard. That's what he is. A Big Kid Krivas is a great backup big right now. Again, I think we just overrated him. I think we overrated him because at one point we were like, oh, they're the number 1 team in the country. They're better than everyone.
I disagree. I think that I think that they're very good, and I don't think there is this is the number 1 team in the country. I think that Arizona as a top 10 team in the country.
But if I found a clip, I guarantee I could find a clip of you saying they are the number 1 team in the country.
Yes, I know, but the difference between number 1 and number 10 this year, this is the point. Like, this is what we've said all season long. The difference between number 1 and number 10 is not all that big. And I do believe that they are built. If you look at the way the roster is constructed, they are built to make a deep run. I will stand on this. They have multiple playmakers. They have multiple point guards. They have a 4-man that can guard up and guard down and can make threes and can be a rim protector. And they got a big guy that pound for pound can do a decent enough job against the guys like Zach Edey and Hunter Dickinson and Donovan Clingan that you need him to. They are built to be able to make a run in March. The problem is they're not getting what they need out of their point guard in the games when they lose. And I think that you can draw a clear line of when they struggle to what Kylan Boswell is doing on the floor. And I don't want it to seem like I'm killing this kid because I thought he was so damn good at doing, right? Yeah,
Again,
like he was the best player on the floor. Player on the floor at Duke. It's just like you can't have this big of a gap between your best games and your worst games. You got to be able to close it. That floor's got to get up there. And he's got to be better than he was tonight. And you know what? He probably knows that. He doesn't need me telling him that because Tommy Lloyd probably told him very loudly.
He knows it. Yes, he knows it. He knows it.
Look, the best players, when we talk about them for the negative, we do because of the level that they can hit. Mm-hmm. And he would tell you right now, he's not playing well enough. It's a long season. The Pac-12 has forgiving games. He'll get on track. This Arizona team will get going. We do have an interview. And folks, you have got to hear this story because he is a stud for Washington State. He helped lead them to this win. His name is Myles Rice. But his story goes beyond just an upset win tonight and a great win for the Cougars. You've got to hear our conversation with him right now.
Washington State makes their presence known on this stacked college hoop Saturday, and I see him nodding right now. He should be. Myles Rice delivered 18 points and 5 assists, continuing his surge as the Cougars take down, and I know this is sweet, number 8 Arizona, 73-70. What a win for Washington State. Myles Rice is with us on After Dark now. Myles, give us the scene. What this win means for this team and what the emotions were like when that buzzer sounds and you guys have beaten the top team in your league.
It's just it's a grateful feeling. They made a late run, but we stayed together. We never got rattled. We responded when we were supposed to respond. These are moments that you dream about when you're a little kid. Hitting a big shot or winning a game against a top ranked opponent at home. And I'm really just grateful that I was able to go out there and play the best that I could. And, my teammates as well. And we went out there and got the dub.
Myles, a lot of people 2 weeks ago, probably myself included, thought it was Arizona and everybody else in this league. And now over the last couple of weeks, week or 10 days, it looks like it's more wide open. And today, even more so with this win that you guys pulled, this upset. How do you feel now? Going against Arizona, beating them.
I mean, I just think it proves that that we can compete with anybody in the country. They're a really talented basketball group, and they have a really great coach. And, I just think we stayed true to our game plan and our scout, and I just think it just shows that that we are a really good defensive team, and we can hold people to the lowest point totals of the season, and we can go out there obviously execute on offense as well. So I'm just grateful, like I said, to be in these moments with my teammates and with my coaches and these fans. And, I'm just super happy that we got the win today.
Myles, I don't know how many people nationally know how impressive and how much fun your story is. Obviously, you missed last season battling non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. We had a family friend of ours that actually just got his last treatment this week. Shout out to Mason for that, by the way. But talk to me about being able to get back to this moment. What was that battle like, getting yourself back into shape? We know what the battle with cancer can do to your body, and you made it back in less than a year to this point.
It's just, having a great support staff. First off, I want to give, praise to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because he got me through everything. And then having my parents and my family, the community of Pullman, my teammates, my coaches, like everybody that was in my corner, they kept me going each and every day when I had to, go through treatments and, work my way back. But over this past summer, getting myself back into shape, putting back on weight, it wasn't hard. I mean, it wasn't easy. It was definitely hard. But, once you go through, like I said, once you go through cancer, there's not a lot of things that mentally that you can't really go through. And just knowing that I came out on the other side of this and, and I got an opportunity to keep playing the game that I love and being around the people that I love each and every day, that's the blessing, and that's the drive that keeps me going.
Myles, what was it like when you were informed by the doctors that you had cancer? You're young, you're healthy. Take me through the emotions.
Just a little bit of disbelief. You don't really – when you hear cancer, you automatically think the worst just based on how society and everything, pushes it out there. But when I told my mom, she kept me in the right headspace as well as my dad. It was just something that we just had to get through. And, I'm just, like I said, I'm super grateful that I was able to get through it. But it was a little bit of disbelief. And then once it really settled in that, this is something that we have to go through, we just attacked it head on. And that's what we did.
All right, before we let you go, can Kyle Smith dance?
Yeah.
Not well.
Not well. He can do a little something, but not nothing crazy.
I bet it's not. I've known Kyle for 15, 20 years. I'm betting he cannot dance. You're just being nice.
He wants that playing time, man.
Myles Rice just handled that perfectly. Myles, congratulations to you and the Cougars on taking down number 8 Arizona. Enjoy the night. Good luck in the rest of the Pac-12.
Great kid. Awesome story. Jeff, you think Washington State could be frisky?
Yeah, I think anybody in the Pac-12 can be frisky, other than maybe UCLA right now. They're the only ones that probably don't have a chance in hell of making any noise, but everybody else has a chance. Smoked, an embarrassment. This is
all right.
I know I'm not trying to talk UCLA on this Tonight show, but my God, is what Mick Cronin has done this year. Like, when you talk about biggest surprises either way, and I didn't think they'd be great this year, but nobody thought they would suck like they've sucked.
I have a question for you, Jeff. I don't want you to be honest, and it could be a one-word answer. It could be a long answer. It could be whatever you want. Mick Cronin's buyout is massive, right? Either way, whether or not someone's buying him out to get him to come coach him, or whether he needs a buyout when he gets fired, right?
Yeah.
Is this something where Mick Cronin is trying to make it be so bad that UCLA is like, you know what, just go. Like, we're done. We don't need this. Go ahead. Maybe that school in Kentucky that doesn't wear blue is calling him. And is he just trying to make it so it's cheap for him to get there? Is that what's happening here? Yes or no?
No, but I think Mick Cronin's next career might be as a horse handicapper. I think that's where he's headed next.
That's good. Kevin Willard used to say that
maybe this season.
Yeah. Kevin Willard used to say it was the best day at Louisville when Mick would come into Rick with some horse picks, because he knew, like, the next 90 minutes he could do whatever he wanted because Rick Pitino would be immersed in horses. We're going to get to Rick Pitino. Yeah, we're going to get to Rick Pitino in a few moments, but we're going to turn to the Mountain West. And speaking of a Pitino, Richard Pitino's New Mexico team gets a big win, a game that was really important for them. They're coming off a loss to UNLV. They win this game 88-70. Now, guys, we've talked about the Mountain West and its depth. It was so cool to see the Pitt and New Mexico, that atmosphere. Rob, this New Mexico team with Jalen House and with Mashburn Jr. and the pieces that they have, what they show you in this win that they could be?
Well, we finally saw them play at the level that you need to play to be able to be a contender in the Mountain West this year. And I hope people realize, I know that there are a couple teams that have taken some losses this season, right? Like Boise State specifically. Nevada got beat at home last night by Boise State. San Diego State lost one to BYU. They lost one on the road at Grand Canyon. But this league has a legitimate chance to get 6 teams into the NCAA tournament. That's not an exaggeration, right? There are 6 teams at the top of this conference that are all good enough to be able to go to the big dance and probably win a game there. And New Mexico not only needed this for their resume because they didn't really have all that much in terms of victories on it before this, but they also just needed it for, like, the confidence, right? Like, at some point last year, I think it was about early January, they kind of had this same feel. They were one of the last teams that were unbeaten. They were climbing up in the metrics. They were sneaking into some polls. People were starting to talk about them. And then they get to Mountain West play, and the bottom fell out once they got into conference play. And you got to do things like go on the road to the Spectrum and go on the road to the Show and go on the road to Colorado State. Like, it's tough when the buildings that you're going to and the student sections that you're going to actually have nicknames. Right. So being able to get this win against the reigning champs, against the team that made it to the national title game last year, I think not only gives them the massive win that they needed, right? It improves their confidence, man. It lets them think like, hey, you know what? Maybe this year isn't the same as last year. Maybe the fact that we got one of the best basketball courts in the sport and Donovan Dent and Jalen House and Jamal Mashburn Jr. is going to be enough to carry them through. And it should be. They are. What's wild to think is that they might have one of the best backcourts in college basketball. And they had the kid JT Toppin, the freshman, go for 17, 16, and 5 blocks today, despite going 1 for 10 from the foul line. And they're probably maybe the 4th best team in this conference when it's all said and done. That's how good the Mountain West is. It's no joke, man. It's a fun league. I hope people are paying attention to it.
Jeff.
Yeah, no,
Jeff?
Listen, again, as good as their win was, it might have been overshadowed by Utah State's 15th straight win, beating UNLV on the road, and our guy, great Asabar, hits 2 free throws with 9 seconds left, and that gives them their first lead and only lead of the game. Ian Martinez.
Can we talk about that ending, by the way? You're bearing the lead on that. They were down by 4 with 10 seconds left. They hit a 3. There was it was an and 2 because there was a foul on the rebound when the 3 went in. It was a 5-point play with 3 seconds left in the game for Utah State to win it. I've never seen that before. Never, ever.
They're 4-0 now in the league, Utah State, and firmly entrenched. And I will say this. We're going to talk about our Coach of the Year pick later. I'm not going to pick Danny Sprinkle as my Coach of the Year from Utah State, but I will say this: they're the biggest surprise of the year, and Danny Sprinkle has to be in contention for National Coach of the Year. Again, the Mountain West has been awesome this year. I'm right now putting in. I might book a flight later to Vegas for the Mountain West tournament, the last Pac-12 tournament. I'm probably going to stay for the WCC because Gonzaga, at the beginning, I'm going to go early because Gonzaga's streak of Mark Few making the tournament every single year could hinge on them having to win the league tournament. That might be a one-bid league at the end of the day. It could have so much drama to it. Think about all of them, right? WCC with that, Pac-12 final year, Mountain West potentially getting 6 teams in. It's going to be, and I'm not even talking about the Big West tournament out there. Big West, baby.
It's going to be fun. I mean, the West Coast has intrigue. It does. And it's not even that the Pac-12's in the last year. It's that the Mountain West is achieving what every league that's been around their level would like to achieve, but seldom does. And now the Mountain West has a seat at the big boy table. They're sitting for dinner. They've got a table at that restaurant because they've got multiple teams that could they're not just going to have 4 make it to the NCAA tournament, if not 5. They get the 5th in Dayton. They've got multiple teams that could make a run in the NCAA tournament. And this goes back to the momentum created by San Diego State. We talk about stuff all the time, but San Diego State gave that league such a huge, just more awareness nationally of this league's freaking good. And San Diego State was ready for anything because of what they saw. Hey, we saw New Mexico at their best today. And guess what? Richard Pitino joined us earlier tonight. Here's our conversation with the Lobos leader.
We now welcome in the head coach of the New Mexico Lobos. Richard Pitino is with us after his Lobos beat 19th ranked San Diego State earlier today, 88-70. But Richard, before we ask you questions, I believe you might have a question for me.
Yeah, I just don't know if you drink a lot, day drink or whatever, but I did see something early in the year about you picking us going to the Final Four. And I said, I got to get to this guy. So I'm happy to finally meet you and wonder what the hell's wrong with you.
Hey, I didn't look like an idiot today. That's for sure. Your team's 14-3. What stood out to you the most in this win over the Aztecs?
You know, Jalen House missed, I think, 8 or 9 games. Jamal Mashburn Jr. missed 8 or 9 games in the non-conference. We were able to hold serve, but we haven't really had a night where those two guys were what they were last year. And tonight, certainly, you know, Jalen House, 26 points, Mashburn, 19 points. It just felt a little bit like last year. It was kind of a bummer that we weren't able to build that early, but we need those guys to hit shots. JT Toppin, I mean, the guy has 17 points, 16 rebounds, and is 1 for 10 from the free throw line. So we competed our butt off. The biggest thing we did was we were plus 10 on the glass. We're a team who's bigger and stronger than we are.
Hey, I said going into this game that I thought this was kind of your Super Bowl this year, and it could really change your entire season. We know what you guys did early last year, and then you didn't end up making the NCAA tournament. Obviously, getting a win like this against a program that, again, has so much respect nationally, what does it do, not just for your resume, but maybe for the program psyche, for your confidence of your players?
Yeah, I think you brought up last year. I think there was this little bit of a cloud of, oh, is this going to happen again? Because we started off so great, you know, and I don't think any of us thought we'd be so good so early in year 2, but I definitely thought there was a little bit of that feeling amongst our fans and in the air. So it was great to get a decisive win like this, because in our 3 losses, now the St. Mary's game, Nelly Jr. Joseph had just gotten here. Jalen House didn't play. But the 2 losses in conference, although we were able to come back, like we were down double digits in those games. So it's not so much the shame of losing on the road in conference, because it's hard to win those games. It was the way that we lost that was so frustrating. So you hate to say as a coach that it is a must win, but it certainly felt like we needed to take advantage of this opportunity and stack some good quality wins like this one.
Yeah. Richard, when you look at the Mountain West heading into conference play, when it started, the conversation was, we got New Mexico, we got Colorado State, we got Nevada out here rolling. We have San Diego State just coming off a Final Four. And you look up today, and the 2 teams that are in first place are Utah State and Boise State. Well, what does it say about how difficult this league is?
You know, I really believe it's not quite there yet, but it could be the West Coast equivalent to the Big East. Now, we have football. Big East does not have football. But there's a lot of programs that really, really care. And you kind of brought up, like, Boise State played the toughest schedule in the non-conference of anyone in our league. So they may have some losses, but Dagenhart could play anywhere in the country. He's really, really good. The venues, I believe ours, when it's good, is one of the best in the country. Like, I don't think it's any close, but San Diego State's terrific. Utah State, the job that Danny Sprinkle is doing with losing as many guys as he did is phenomenal. Utah State's really, really hard to play. So I think there's some programs with some stability. Nico Medved's done an amazing job. He's been there a while. Steve Alford's been at Nevada now for a couple of years. He's building something special. So it's continuity more than anything. Obviously, Brian Dutcher's been there for a long time as an assistant head coach. But I do believe if we continue to improve as a conference, there's no, especially now with the Pac-12 kind of breaking down, why we can't be like the Big East in the West. And why I say that is I really believe all the schools, like San Diego State's had the most success, but all the schools are pretty similar for the most part. The jobs are pretty similar. And I look at the Big East the same way. I mean, you could argue 1 through 8, what are the best jobs? And everybody would probably give a different answer.
All right. I'm going to give you a quote from a coach today, another coach around the country. And I want your thoughts on this quote. It was really insightful. I mean, truly an insightful quote that I think you'll really enjoy.
Some type of setup going on right now, but I'm waiting. Go ahead.
I don't feel good when we lose. I effing hate the world. Just so you understand that. No, I don't feel good. I don't believe in those valiant efforts in the road. I feel like I want to kill myself, jump in the cold, and die of frostbite. First of all, can you guess what head coach said that earlier today?
Yeah, tad extreme at the end there. That turned dark quickly. That cold weather up there in the upper Midwest can get him. I experienced it for 8 years. I think more. Here's what I'll say about my dad, and I truly do. But one of his greatest qualities, and I worked for him for 3 years, he gets everybody to hate losing so bad. The trainer will be going up to the players like, "Come on, man, we can't lose tonight. Don't ruin this for everybody." Like everybody, the managers. He builds such a. And I don't do this because it's just, I don't want to be miserable. Right. So I'm like, he can live through that. But he creates a culture where you despise winning. It's never attaboy guys, we almost won at Creighton. Like it never is that. So I don't know who they play next. I got a feeling though, they'll be hungry and ready to go.
That was all time. And we've got that sound, so we might as well go right to it here. What Richard, and we thank Richard Pitino for his time. This was Rick Pitino after a 1-point loss at Creighton today for St. John's. Okay, Rob, your reaction to, first off, that was a wild finish, and there was a debate at the end if there should have been a foul call as Danish Jenkins went off. Creighton wins. But Rob, your reaction to Rick Pitino's postgame comment.
It's Rick Pitino being Rick Pitino, man. I hear what he's saying when it comes to, he's won multiple national titles. He's made multiple Final Fours. He's coached in the NBA. Pretty sure he won like a title in Greece when he was out there, right? Like getting these moral victories and being able to say, oh, you're little old St. John's. You haven't been good since 1999. You go on the road to Creighton, who's this juggernaut and top 15 team and playing for Big East titles and Elite Eight last year. And you give him a hell of a fight and good job, St. John. Like, I understand why he's like, that's not us anymore, man. That's not me. That's not what I do. I win. He's got the mindset of a winner. He's got that winning pedigree, however you want to phrase it. So I did enjoy that. I also enjoyed him making sure to take a swipe at somebody up in stores again. We don't need to get into. Yeah, we can go over this as much as you want, but I love that this is becoming a thing where these two guys are going back and forth. Because I will tell you this, I still think Creighton is a good team. I think that they are good enough to be a second weekend team. I think they are good enough to be a Big East champion, whether that is in the Big East tournament, whether that's even a Big East regular season title potentially. I'm still in on Creighton being like the top 20-ish, top 15-ish kind of team that I don't know if a lot of people are still there. But St. John's is really damn good, and they are only going to get better as they continue to figure out what's going on with this defense and this offense that they run, as they continue to give more minutes to R.J. Lewis. Is it Lewis or Louise? I've heard it pronounced both ways by announcers this year, and I've gotten it's Lewis, R.J. Lewis. And
I told him this the other night. He doesn't want to listen to me, Fanta.
No, it's one of those things where like now every time I say it, I think I'm getting it wrong because I got it wrong once, and it's just stuck in my head, and I'm always gonna. It's bad. I think about stuff too much.
You're gonna get it. It's like getting Eleanor Baldwin Arena.
Yeah, exactly. If I could say that 7 times fast, then I could say R.J. Lewis. No, but I just think his presence defensively changes things. You got guys buying into what they want to do. You got shot makers, and you got Joel Soriano, who's just this anchor at the rim. I think St. John's is really, really, really good. I think them and Seton Hall are both like top 25-ish kind of teams. I think they're teams that can make some noise when they get to the NCAA tournament. So it's gonna be a fun Big East. And don't we have Seton Hall, St. John's coming up here this week?
Tuesday night, 8:30. Yep, from the Prudential Center.
Fun.
Okay.
So
this is what I wanted. Yeah, buckle your seatbelt. Probably the biggest game in Newark in several years. So, okay, I want to get Goodman's reaction to this because Pitino, he's not doubling down. He's not tripling down, Jeff. He is quadrupling down on the new feud. The biggest coaching feud in college basketball is Rick Pitino versus Dan Hurley. We also have this sound of Pitino on not criticizing officials.
They're three good refs. When you play the game, blame refs. I literally watch every game, and I say the refs make about 10 to 12 mistakes. for us and against us. But refereeing basketball is really, really difficult. Those three guys can flat out ref, but every game I see mistakes, and for both teams, because there is no perfect game by referees, and there's no perfect game the way we play. Those three refs, I don't have a problem with them at all. They're excellent refs. But I'm not going to blame a referee on a call. Never going to do that. People who do that.
Okay, people who do that, he basically said are cheaters. Goodman?
Yeah, I mean, he continued and said, I think it's a form of cheating when you're trying to get calls in every play and cursing at the referees and citing the crowd. Clearly a shot without saying Dan Hurley's name. I do tend to agree with Rick on a lot of what he's saying about the referees, though. They're human. They make mistakes. Generally, it equals itself out, right? Generally, for the most part, yeah, Kansas is going to get more calls at Allen Fieldhouse, and Duke's going to get more calls, certainly when Kay was at Cameron. But for the most part, I agree with Rick here, and here's what I'll say. I love this because I remember 15 years ago or so, Cal and Rick were going at it, the Kentucky-Louisville thing when it was at its high point, and they were going at it publicly. They had no problem taking shots at each other. And it was a blast. Like Cal would say something and I would literally text or call Rick and he would come right back and he didn't give a shit. He would just go right back and fight back against Cal, and they would go back and forth. And it was a blast. It was fun. I mean, it was like two teenage kids that couldn't help themselves. And it's good to see that Rick hasn't really grown up.
He's the same guy. He's not going to change. He's not going to change for anybody. And this is fun. This is why when he got hired by St. John's, we said this is interesting because it's New York. And now that the New York beat people are traveling with St. John's, so all of his remarks are getting covered to the nth degree. Yeah. But Jeff, beyond that, you tweeted earlier, St. John's is now the team that nobody wants to play. Why?
Yeah, because you're giving Rick Pitino time. They don't have a star. Like Soriano, like Rob said, he's an anchor down low, but he's not a star you're building around. Dennis Jenkins is a nice player. He took a couple Ivy League guys that really haven't probably paid their worth in NIL, but they've been solid. RJ Lewis has been a great spark since he's come back healthy, but they're not uber talented. But again, if you give arguably the best coach in the planet as far as college basketball is concerned, time and experienced players and enough talent, he's going to find a way to make them dangerous. And it took maybe a little bit longer than some thought, but we honestly, that's our fault. We thought Rick was going to just snap his fingers and right away this team was going to come out of the gates and be great. And it's it takes longer when you got that many new dudes. And Soriano's been there, but he never played for Rick Pitino. And playing for Rick Pitino, trust me, it's a little different than playing for Mike Anderson in that system.
Can I push back on one thing, though? Here's what I'll push back on. I do agree with everything that you're saying on St. John's, but I think that there's another team in the Big East that nobody wants to see right now. And you got to go a little bit south from New York City. You got to go a little bit south from the Garden. You got to head down to Newark. You got to head down to Seton Hall. You got to head down to the place where Kadari Richmond resides. The team from South Orange, but they play in Newark, and I'm referring to the building that they want to play in. So I am right. You are wrong. Once again, point for Rob. I think it's 5-0 today in terms of me and Jeff. But Kadari Richmond's been unbelievable. Go ahead.
He has been unbelievable. Kadari Richmond is performing like an All-American. He's got 3 straight performances of 20-plus points. Today he played bully ball late against Butler. And I'm going to tell you, Shaheen Holloway deserves a heap of credit for the job that he's done with this team. I had them against Rutgers on December 9th in a game that walking into it on a Saturday night, not going to lie, didn't mean a whole lot. Or at least it didn't look like it meant a whole lot. Rutgers went in and really rolled past Seton Hall. And a lot of people thought that was the week that Harper and Bailey committed. Rutgers then really rolled past Seton Hall. Like maybe Rutgers will make a move in the Big Ten and do what they've done. They haven't. They've gone sideways. And Seton Hall, from losing to Iowa, USC, they lost to USC. They lost to Rutgers. They looked like they were way off the map. And Shaheen Holloway had a meeting with his team right around December 15th, 16th. And he said, fellas, either you're going to be who you've been or we're going to get this together and you fourth, fifth, because he's got old players. Richmond's old. Al Dawes has been around college hoops forever. Dre Davis is old. Jaden Bediako's old. Dylan Adewusu is an old guy. And he said, either you're going to make something of your careers, what's left of them, or you're going to let all this talk that we have, that we're the poor team in the Big East, that nobody cares about us. We're picked last. You're not picked last in the Big East. DePaul's got that reserved, but they were picked ninth. And they were looked at as a bottom dweller in this league. And I got to tell you, Shaheen Holloway deserves immense credit. I think we all knew he could coach. You don't take St. Peter's to the elite and not be able to coach, but he's doing an incredible job.
I'll say this. In a conference that includes the likes of Dan Hurley, that includes the likes of Rick Pitino, that has Shaka Smart in it, that has Sean Miller in it, that has Ed Cooley in it, that has Thad Mana in it, right? That has Greg McDermott in it. Yeah, that has young, promising coaches like Kim English and Kyle Neptune in it, right? I think that Shaheen Holloway right now is the Big East Coach of the Year. And I think that I don't really think it's all that close, right? And maybe that's not going out on that much of a limb considering that they're in first place. But when you look at where he was even 3 weeks ago, it's incredible to see. So shout out to the Pirates, man, as much as it kills me to say. I know Dagan Hughes is over there doing jumping jacks celebrating right now hearing us talk about this. You know what's funny? Goodman, say their name. You got to do it. Say their name.
The team from South Orange.
I went there too. Okay, I mean, I'm doing cartwheels too.
I refuse with both of you. I refuse to say their name. I will just continuously refer them as the team from South Orange.
There's your Big East title odds. UConn is in action tomorrow at noon. I don't know what the final score will be. They're going to be taking on Georgetown in Hartford. So Ed Cooley meets Dan Hurley.
Hey, you know where we're going to be 2 weeks from today?
Go ahead.
Where are we going to be? We are going to be at the Dunk. The Dunk. Forget about the Amica Mutual Insurance Pavilion Center, whatever the hell it's called. It is the Dunk. And 2 weeks from today, we are going to see Ed Cooley walk onto the court. And I'm telling you, I hope it's as entertaining. I hope you guys get to see what I saw a couple of years ago when Chris Beard walked onto the court at United Supermarkets Arena in Lubbock, Texas, because that was something I'll never forget, not just because I sat next to Ric Flair during the game, but, man, that student section was elite. Now, the only thing I'll say is leading up to it the night before, it was like 70 degrees. The students were out. They kind of chased the bus when Beard left the arena. Like, I don't know if we're going to get any of that at Providence, but we will get, an hour and a half before that game, 2 hours before the game, 3 hours before the game. It's going to be a shit show.
Yeah. Well, 4 hours before the game will be 8 o'clock in the morning. And if we're all talking in person at 8 o'clock in the morning, one of us might be dead by 2:15 p.m. in Providence, Rhode Island. That is going to be a wild weekend. I cannot wait to be there with both of you. Okay, so much happened today. We didn't even get to a top 10 matchup. So Kansas faces Oklahoma, and Kansas wins 78-66. It's a ho-hum performance by the Jayhawks. And for the Sooners, they've got some reflecting to do off of a tough week for them. Jeff, how did Kansas get this done? What did you take from this win for the Jayhawks?
Well, wasn't with their outside shooting, that's for sure. Their biggest weakness, in I think everybody's opinion, they went 3 for 15 from beyond the arc. Hunter was Hunter again. He didn't get in foul trouble. He stayed in the court. I don't think Oklahoma's that good. I think ultimately when we're going to look at Oklahoma and the Sooners at the end of the year, they're going to be a 10 seed or something like that, not a top 10 team, 15 team, as they played like early. Give them credit. Here's what Kansas did. They did what DeJuan Harris does, right? They took care of the ball. Only 2 turnovers. First time, I think, in the history of Kansas's program, they had 2 turnovers in a game, and they made every free throw. So, you can – if you do everything else well and they guard, which, again, that's what Kansas has to hang its hat on, guarding, taking care of the ball, and winning in kind of a, Hunter, McCullough, KJ Adams, those 3 have to honestly get you, 50 to 60 points. And then you got to get a little bit from DeJuan Harris and a little bit from your bench. And hopefully Furphy can keep coming along a little bit here.
I think the best way to sum up what Kansas is this season, I saw a stat from our guy, Evan Miyakawa, over at evanmaya.com. He ranked the 5th men, Evan Maya.
Who's it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you're kidding or not, but evanmaya.com, he put together a list of ranking the 5th men and the 5th starters for every team in college basketball, right? And I think he had it as Nick Timberlake as the 5th man for Kansas, ranked 64th in the country, the 64th best last starter when it comes to teams in college basketball. And that sums up everything you need to know about where this program is and where this team is and what they can be this year, because I think it's fair to say that you are as good as your weak link, right? And it's just they're a team with 4 guys. And I don't think any
that's
of us
what we say here at the field.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what we say at the Field of 68 with you all the time.
Fair enough. Are you calling me the Nick Timberlake of Field of 68?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm calling you.
You are the Nick Timberlake of the Field of 68. You have disappeared.
Oh, man. But you know what's funny about that? Here's the way that'll tie it all together. The best 5th man in the sport right now in college basketball, according to our guy Evan, is Cam Spencer. And I think that when you look at who UConn tried to get, who they ended up getting, who Kansas could have gotten if they didn't get the guy that UConn was trying to get, and look at where UConn is right now, I think that kind of there's some contrast there. That's a conversation for a different day.
All right, let's keep it rolling in the Big 12. Final score, TCU 68. Number 2, Houston 67. Emmanuel Miller. Oh, come, Emmanuel. Part 2. Horned Frogs win. How much credit does Jamie Dixon deserve for this week, Jeff? Wow.
Man, I'll tell you what. That's like elite level coaching, preparation, and not from a physical standpoint, from an emotional standpoint. What Jamie Dixon did to get these guys focused in and locked in, Dagan Hughes, locked in, is incredible, because you think about it, they were screwed out of a game in Lawrence. They had that game won, and again, we know this story. Ernest Uday, flagrant one, hits Hunter Dickinson in the face, and they end up losing that game. They could have put their heads down and lost that next game. But they come back, they win that one. And then they beat Oklahoma, and then they beat Houston. 2 huge wins for them. And they had played the softest Charmin-like non-conference schedule probably of any decent team in the country. And I think Dixon did it on purpose, knowing hey, listen, if we do enough in the Big 12, it's not going to matter what we did in the non-conference. But they had to take care of business, and they did it twice here, because now the loss of Kansas, not a big deal. It's not going to hurt you, especially when you get these 2 like they did.
Yeah, I mean, look, the job that the way that you can get your team paying attention to playing the likes of Oklahoma, who Jeff might hate them, right? But I still think that they are probably a top 25 team. And then going and playing number 1, number 2, number 3, depending on the metric that you looked at, Houston, after that loss is really, really impressive. And I think that they made a little bit of a statement here, right? Like if you look at what they did previously before this week, it was losing to Clemson on a neutral. It was losing to Nevada on a neutral, beating up a bunch of teams that Goodman might be able to start at the 4 for. and then having a game ripped out of their hands at Kansas. And you can look at that and say that's something that could cost them this season, right? Like that legitimately could be the kind of thing that could determine whether or not you are on the right side of the bubble or the wrong side of the bubble, a win like that. And you got to give them credit for being able to go out and win these 2 games. And I'll tell you what, that is a good team. That TCU team is tough. They are good. They are always going to guard you. They're always going to get out in transition. I love the change that Jamie Dixon has made. Like if you go back and think to his Pitt teams, they're kind of grind you out, tough, physical. They want to win games in the 50s. They want to win games in the low 60s, like very much that throwback old Big East era style of play. And you look at what they're doing now. They're like top 30 in the country in tempo. They're top 30 in the country in pace and average offensive possession length. They want to force turnovers and they want to get out and run and they want to let their athletes do athletic stuff. And it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and you wouldn't believe this, but TCU has the most 1,000-point career scores on a roster in college basketball. And their average, I know, their average age is around 23, 22 and a half, 23. They're old. Travion Tennyson is old. Yeah, right. They're an old team, and that's a great win for them. I think it's also part of life in the Big 12. Welcome to it, Houston. You're 1-2. Houston was the number 2 team in the country entering this week, and they're 1-2 in the Big 12 conference, the best conference in college basketball. All right, let's go rapid fire here because we still got a couple topics, and we're going to close with Fanta's Forum. So I'm going to go with Robert here. Rob, Auburn. They roll past LSU 93-78. When you think about the Tigers and their ceiling and where this team can be, well, what do you think? How do you forecast them?
I'm so high on this Auburn team, and maybe it's just because I'm high. It's legal in New Jersey right now, so but it just the way that they can defend, right? The way that they can shoot, the presence of Janai Broome and Jalen Williams, and how good that front court actually is. Aiden Holloway has not been his absolute best in kind of recent weeks, but he's still someone that has a very high ceiling in terms of the damage that he can do. I love what this group is. I love that they've embodied that what Bruce Pearl wants out of a basketball program. I think that he hit home runs in the transfer portal with Denver Jones and with Chad Baker-Mazara. And this very much looks like the Auburn team that we expect to come out of that Bruce Pearl program. And I think the one where I would give him credit is he kind of realized last year, right? We knew it for 2 years. We knew it because the Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler team did not live up to what the hype was. And then last year was disappointing, right? Because of inefficient guard play, maybe poor decision-making in their backcourt, maybe guys that he wants to play like a Jared Harper that can't necessarily do the things that Jared Harper could do. I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but going out and getting guards that will fit more into what you want and be more efficient, asking someone that has been a 2-year starter for you and Katie Johnson to move to a role coming off the bench, playing like 15 minutes a game instead of playing 30 minutes a game, and having him accept that role. I don't think that it should be overlooked how difficult that is to do as a guy running a program. And Katie, to his credit, has bought all the way in. He's been nightmare fuel off the bench. He's been a game changer off the bench. He's been able to do what he does in smaller doses, and I think it's been more effective. And if you had to put a gun to my head right now and tell me who's going to win the SEC, I think it's going to come down to Auburn and Kentucky. As good as Tennessee's been, as good as Dalton Connect has been, I think that it's going to be one of those two teams.
Well, it was a rapid fire segment, but you gave a wonderful,
I almost fell asleep. Jesus.
That's because you're old and it's late, Jeff. It's because you're old and it's late, Grandpa.
Well, we both yelled Jeff earlier for your breakdown of New Mexico. I thought for a second I had lost you for a second when Robert had gotten done. Right.
He short-circuited.
Now I'm going to go to Jeff's favorite conference, the Big Ten. Quick Big Ten breakdown of the day. So Wisconsin's at the top of the league. They're 5-0. Illinois is 3-1. So Purdue is actually tied for third with Indiana at 4-2. Who would have thunk that? Purdue, by the way, will play Indiana on Tuesday night on Peacock. It'll be a better game
Peacock.
than the other game. Yeah.
Hopefully, Hummel won't be doing that game.
I would bet that
What
he
was
is. That was his sound effect. Yeah.
Jesus.
There's so much I could say, but I don't want to get in trouble. And so we're gonna talk about the Big Ten. Wisconsin wins today over Northwestern, 71-63. Purdue also dominated Penn State. That's not surprising. Are you buying the Badgers, Jeff Goodman?
Yeah. How can you not? How can you not? I mean, they've done a hell of a job after starting off the season a little rough at 1-2. They've been as hot as almost any team in the country. So I love their pickup. AJ Storr was like one of the best pickups in the portal that nobody thought was going to be this advantageous. But he's been awesome. And obviously they're old, right? They had a lot of guys coming back in similar roles. What did they need? They needed a dude, an athletic dude who could score, who could shoot, who could put it on the floor a little bit, who could guard. And AJ Storr has done all those things for them. So he was kind of the missing piece for this team. But again, I think, a lot of those guys were already kind of in place, knew the system, knew what Greg Garb wanted. And let's face it, in this Big Ten too, they could finish. I don't think they can win it. I still think, my money would be on Purdue. I wonder what the odds are right now, Rob. If you can look it up in the next break or when I'm talking lengthy, which I may do, find out what the odds are for Purdue now. I think it was to win the Big Ten before it was like minus 300 or something. I don't think Wisconsin can win the league, but I think they're the clear-cut favorite now, not only to finish second in the league, but to get a really good seed, maybe get a number 2 or 3 seed come March. And who knows? I don't know if a lot of people are going to pick, for them to go deep in the tournament, but why not? That's what I'd say. Why not with Wisconsin?
I agree.
The only thing the only thing that I'm worried about with them is I'm not convinced on them defensively. I do think that they've looked really good, but I can't get the loss to Tennessee, the loss to Providence, the loss to Arizona. Like when it goes bad for them on that end, it goes bad and things look ugly. And you get like 25-pieced by Arizona, who, as we saw today, can struggle at times when you want to play them the right way. But I think in the Big Ten, where I don't think that they will run into that. Like if there's going to be a team that can do that to you in the Big Ten, it's probably Boo Boo in Northwestern. And I thought that they were really, really good today. Max Klesman had 24. He's averaging 21 the last 2 games. Goodman, you mentioned Purdue and whether or not they can win it. Yeah. Wisconsin plays Purdue twice this year. They get them at home on February 4th. You know what the last game of the regular season is? Sunday, March 10th, on the road at Purdue. Game. Yeah, Zach Edey's last game. The last game in his last game in Mackey Arena.
He's not going to come back for another year? Why wouldn't he come back?
I mean, because he doesn't want to deal with you in interviews anymore, probably. But that could end up being for the Big Ten championship. Imagine that. Zach Edey's last regular season game, last game in Mackey Arena. They're going to retire his jersey. It's going to be his senior night. And you got Wisconsin coming in with the Big Ten title on the line. Give me that. I'm here for that. Yeah. Let's make that happen. I'm rooting for it now, baby. Let's make it work. Speak it into existence, Jeff.
I would love that. Yeah. The Edey statue can't be big enough. It can't be big enough. Whatever that looks like, whatever they were going to use for Hummel, they're just going to use double. They're going to need all that. They need all of that material.
Raised. No, they're actually, by the way, I cannot find an extra large Hummel jersey anywhere. I mean, the only thing that exists, I found a double X, which I may fit into soon if I stay longer here in Charleston. But right now, I'm looking for an XL. If anybody can find an XL Hummel jersey so I can repay the bet, which, by the way, now, I don't know if you heard, Rob and John, but now I have to wear it in Scottsdale, and I have to wear it probably to either the pump party or the Innosport party and throughout the day.
All right,
it's
we're going to take a break.
Arizona when they were playing a road game. What are you doing? You got to be smart.
Some fun.
Trevor, cue the sounder of what's coming up next. Stay tuned.
What's going on, guys? Before we get back to the show, I need to let you all know about the Field of 68 Daily, an all-encompassing college basketball newsletter that arrives in your inbox, you guessed it, daily. For less than $1 a week, you'll wake up every morning to more than 1,500 words detailing everything that you need to know to stay up to date on the world of college basketball. From the notable mid-major upsets to the stars that are out injured, to the breakout performances that only our team of college basketball junkies watched. The Daily is edited and produced by Mike Miller, who spent more than 2 decades running NBC's digital written content, and is subscribed by more than half of the Division I coaching staffs, the biggest names in college basketball media, and the agents that work as power brokers in the sport. For just $50 for the year, you get access to the same information that the insiders get. And before we get you back to your regularly scheduled Field of 68 content, let me tell you guys about the Field of 68 merch store. Head over to fieldof68.shop for officially branded Field of 68 apparel. Whether you're supporting your favorite team in the student section or from the couch, there is no better way to gear up than the latest from the Field of 68. The best thing I can say about our merch is the quality of the product. Anyone that has ever worn a t-shirt knows how frustrating it is when the neck gets all stretched out and the bottom of the shirt starts looking like the bottom of bell-bottom jeans. And there's nothing worse than a hoodie that loses its snugness that makes it such a perfect way to stay warm during the cold winter weather. Whether you're shopping for yourself or for the college basketball fan in your life, everything you need is at the fieldof68.shop.
Welcome to Fanta's Forum. Court is now in session at 11:30 Eastern Time, Saturday, January the 13th. The judge has not had a good day. His football team was absolutely obliterated, and Sean Miller's football team is still playing, and I'm really pissed off about that. So I'm not in a good mood already. We're going to listen to 2 minutes worth of arguments from Counselors Dauster and making his first appearance in the courtroom this season, Counselor Goodman. I've asked each counselor this question in our other Fantas Forum. Shockingly, Counselor Hansborough said he had never been in a courtroom, but Counselor Dauster, have you ever been in a courtroom or in jail?
Or in jail.
Both, actually. So,
well, you're off to a tough
Are you
start
surprised,
tonight.
Adam?
No, not at all. What about you, Counselor Goodman?
No, I've never been in jail. Come on. I'm a good, wholesome person who never did anything wrong.
Okay, I do have the cop next to me. It's Officer Valise. Officer Valise, I'd ask you to remain truthful and not start any rumors in the courtroom. Do you understand? Let's get to our topics tonight. Topic number 1 is make your case.
Did I really agree to this?
You did.
Yes, you did.
It's Trevor, is it the best bit on the network? Topic number 1, make your case for who you would pick to win it all right now. Counselor Goodman, you will take the stand first.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the Purdue Boilermakers, Judge Fanta. And I think they've got motivation that nobody else has, period. I mean, nobody had the most embarrassing loss in NCAA tournament history a year ago. We saw how that worked out historically with Virginia, the only other team to be at number 1 and lose to a number 16. They went back the next year, Judge, and they won the whole damn thing. So there's precedent in the courtroom for this. Number 2, those young kids, those freshmen are now sophomores. Number 3, they have the best player in the country, Zach Edey, who continues to get better and better and better. Number 4, they brought in Lance Jones, which is exactly what they needed. Tough, athletic, defender, fearless, will take a big shot, isn't afraid, can guard. Number 4, they've got enough options at the 4-man spot that they can find the right matchup. All they got to do is get past that first game, and I think it'll be a wrap. So to me, Purdue, they have all the ingredients, and they have the one thing nobody else has, ultimate motivation and a blueprint.
Counselor Dauster.
I would like to I need to ask the court for a clarification. Do we know if Donovan Clingan will be healthy throughout the rest of the season? Can I get a clarification from the court, please?
Let me check with Dr. Hotballs. He should be back shortly. Okay, he should be back in the coming weeks.
Okay. Well, if and when Donovan Clingan gets back healthy, I think that UConn is the team that is the most complete team in college basketball. I think when it comes to the perimeter shooting, I think when it comes to the presence that you have with the Great Wall of Bristol at the 5, I think that having 3 playmakers on the perimeter in Cam Spencer and Steph Castle and Tristan Newton is something that no one else can match. I think that Alex Caravan can be considered one of the ultimate X factors in college basketball. And they've already done it. We've seen them be able to run through the non-conference portion of their schedule the last 2 seasons, smacking everybody except for Kansas on the road. So I'm in on this UConn team. The only weakness they have is their perimeter defense. The only weakness they have is keeping ball handlers from getting into the paint. And when you have the Great Wall of Bristol there at the 5, erasing everything at the rim, it completely changes what they can be defensively. And the only issue they have right now is on the defensive end of the floor. And the last thing that I'll say is this. I still believe that they have as much room to grow as anybody in the sport, because the guy that anchors everything for them on the one end of the floor where they're struggling is the guy that's coming back from injury. Give me the UConn Huskies.
It's interesting here. It's kind of like a jury interview session, because Officer Valise, is there any truth to the fact that Counselor Dauster has an agenda that exists with Storrs, Connecticut? With that in mind, this is really a challenge for me because it's a best-of-3 series. But it's who's the team that we're picking to win the national championship. I said last April on our shows that I thought Purdue would be in for a redemption tour. Counselor Goodman, you lead 1-0. Case number 2, National Coach of the Year. Counselor Dauster, you have the first stand here. You're National Coach of the Year right now.
There are a lot of people that are up for this award, Judge. I think that there are a lot of coaches that deserve to be in the conversation, but there is only one answer that I do believe is acceptable at this point in time, and that is John Calipari, head coach of the Kentucky Wildcats. Nobody in this era of college basketball, nobody in 2024, nobody right now, and when everyone else can get their 5th years, when everyone else can get these COVID players coming in, when everyone else can get 24, 25, 26, sometimes 27-year-olds eligible to play, nobody else is going out here and doing what he's doing with a whole bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds on the roster. And I know what you're going to say. They're 5 stars. They're going to play in the NBA. They have all this talent. They have all this. They look great on projections. That's not how you win in college basketball in this day and age. Look at the teams that have won national titles. Look at the teams that have made deep runs in the tournament. Look at the teams that are having the highest level of success, winning league championships. It's not the teams that are going all the way in on the one and done route. That is what Coach Cal is doing. He has managed to get a team that has 4 guys that could all be argued as potential All-Americans this season, as all be argued in the conversation for all SEC, and has all 4 of those guards playing, splitting up the minutes, and happy and playing hard and defending and playing together and bought in. Being able to get a group that is that deep to be able to accept their roles is not an easy thing to do. And I think that we've seen him change who he is. We're not running this stagnated, throw the ball into the post, crash the glass, Oscar Tshiebwe offense anymore. They're going 5 out. They're jacking 3s. They're running the court. He's completely changed what he does while also going all the way in on something that nobody else is doing anymore. It's John Calipari. This is not even a conversation. Just give me this W now, please.
Counselor Goodman, I won't hand out any W's.
He's trying to sway you here. Don't fall for his BS. I'm going to go with a coach in the same league and a guy that honestly nobody thought would even be in the top 25 right now, and that's Bruce Pearl of Auburn. Because frankly, he took over a garbage program. It was garbage. Just look at Jeff Lebo's record. Just look at Tony Barbee, his record, the former Calipari assistant. Cal does have 4 pros, 4 first-round picks, in fact. Aaron Bradshaw, Dillingham, Wagner, Reed Shepard. Am I forgetting anybody else? probably another one I can't even remember right now. All I'm saying is, like, he's got talent. Yeah, it's youth. He picked that youth. He's the one who chose that youth. Bruce Pearl put together a team that most people couldn't have named one player, maybe other than Broom. That's the only player you could have named. So look at what he's done right now. They're top 10 in both offensive and defensive efficiency, according to Kenny Pompoms. They only have 2 losses. They're in the top 10 nationally right now in the polls. They've got some youth like Cal, but listen, let's face it. Cal got lucky. Antonio Reeves, those classes at Illinois State, like, he couldn't transfer elsewhere. He got lucky. Bob Huggins got fired for drinking. Otherwise, he wouldn't have Trey Mitchell. There's a little luck involved there as well, and they're not quite as young as you say, because those 2 dudes are a little bit older. So to me, it's Bruce Pearl. Clearly exceeded expectations way more than John Calipari has this year. Way more.
30 seconds to counter that, Counselor Dauster.
I said everything that I need to say. And then the last thing I'll say is this.
He's tapping out. He's tapping out.
No, I'm not quitting. It's teams don't win with youth these days. There's a reason why Bruce Pearl got Jabari Smith, lost in the second round of the tournament, and stopped doing it. Teams don't win with freshmen anymore. And John Calipari is doing it. Okay, it doesn't mean it's not. It doesn't mean it's not more difficult to do. Like you say, it was Bruce Pearl's decision to go out and get transfers, and he's having success with it. So, what's your point? Of course, it's his decision. What does that have to do with anything?
He doesn't coach at Kentucky. Get those top.
But he still got Jabari Smith. He still would have gotten Jalen Green if Jalen Green didn't go to the G League. Like, what is your point? I don't understand. Of course, it's his decision.
Thank you, Officer.
You say it's his decision like that.
You're gonna end.
Every coach, it's his decision. Every coach.
Throw him out of the room. Get him out of here. Throw him out of here.
Counselor Dauster, you're heading towards Andy Dufresne territory. You've spent enough time in the penitentiary in your life. Do you want to go back there?
If it gets me away from Jeff, please send me there.
Who in their damn mind bailed you out of prison?
Who did?
Matt Pavlich.
How much was it? What was the bail?
It wasn't. I think it was like $250. It wasn't much.
And on that note,
I paid him back.
As much you said, there's a process there. I asked you for Coach of the Year, not necessarily how they got there. They don't ask you always how you got there versus what you did. While I do believe that he still has to prove it in March, because at the end of the day, that's the true barometer for Big Blue Nation. Tonight, he has a better case. I rule with Counselor Dauster tonight, and we are even at 1 apiece in this courtroom, which leads us to case number. Thank you. Which, cue it again. That leads us to question number 3, the best question of the night. So, Counselor Goodman, did you have time to come up with 5, or are you just giving us your 1?
No, I think I can do 5. I can do 5.
Okay. I've asked both counselors to present here to myself and Officer Valise and the YouTube chat. Hopefully we can put in a little poll here for the YouTube chat, and they can help decide. Your 5 favorite movies of all time. I've got the popcorn. I actually literally have some tortilla chips here. I'll be munching on them with Officer Valise. And Counselor Goodman, please give us your top 5 movies of all time.
All right. Number 1, Shawshank Redemption.
Wow.
Number 2, The Gladiator. Number 3, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Number 4, Silence of the Lambs. Number 5, Hangover.
Wow. A nice mixture between Hangover and Silence of the Lambs, 2 very opposite movies. Gladiator. What was your other one next to Shawshank Redemption?
Silence of the Lambs.
No, there was one other one that you had. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Another great movie. Yes. Bueller. It's fantastic. Counselor Dauster, that's going to be tough to top.
Yeah, so I I had The Hangover as one of mine, so I'm removing it from my list and then I'm bumping up one of my other ones just because it's more fun if we can name more movies. When I go through favorite movies, here's how I rate the best movies of all time. It's the ones that are the most rewatchable, right? The ones that you can put on at any point, at any time during the day and sit there and say, oh, this is on. I'm about to watch this. I need to do the dishes. I need to go do some chores. Let me throw this on really quick. I need to fold some laundry. All right, let me go get this on. So I'm going to start. All right. My list is not in order, by the way. These are, I just put together a top 5. They are not ranked. The first one I have is The Town. Ben Affleck is a star, and we get the accent, and you get Jeremy Irons in there, and then you have the scene. There's nothing better than that scene where he's like, there goes college soccer. Like, it's just such a great Boston heist movie. You got to love it. Number 2, Die Hard. How do you not have Die Hard on your list? How can you look at yourself in the mirror as a grown man and say that Die Hard is not one of the best movies ever made? Laughable. I think that in and of itself immediately disregards anything on Jeff Goodman's list. How do you have Silence of the Lambs over Die Hard? It's just laughable to me. Number 3 on my list, White Men Can't Jump, the greatest basketball movie ever made, one of the greatest comedies ever made. And it also created characters that we can compare players to from now until the end of time. I will, for the rest of my life, refer to Cam Spencer, refer to Grant Gibbs as Billy Hoyle. And you'll never, ever hear me say anything otherwise of those two. So that's got to be on that list. The 4th one on my list, you guys are going to laugh, but it's Armageddon. There is nothing better than seeing the ridiculousness of having NASA send a bunch of oil drillers into space to be able to blow up a meteor coming at the Earth, save the entire world. I don't care what anybody says. If you watch that movie at the end and you see that astronaut walk up to Liv Tyler and say, permission to shake the hand of the daughter of the bravest man I've ever met, and you don't tear up, you are lying to yourself. You are lying to us. You are lying to the world. Don't do it. Nobody likes you for it. Armageddon, great movie. And the last one, I just wrote down Judd Apatow. All of these comedies, right? It doesn't matter which one you pick, whether it's Superbad, whether it's Forgetting Sarah Marshall, whether it's Knocked Up, whether it's 40-Year-Old Virgin, whatever it is, Pineapple Express. You could pick any of those comedies from that era and put them on the list. It doesn't matter. So I'm just going with Judd Apatow as number 5 on my list. I could watch all those back to back. I could start at 8 o'clock in the morning and throw on Superbad and go through Judd Apatow's entire IMDb and go to sleep at 10 and be a happy man.
Well, looks like I won this one. This was a landslide. This was easier than I thought. Yeah, this was easy.
Officer Valise, has the YouTube chat weighed in at all?
Our current poll has Goodman winning 70% to 30%.
Oh my!
I just want the YouTube chat to realize that they are agreeing with Jeff Goodman on something, and they probably want to reevaluate everything that they are doing with their life right now.
Well, somehow Goodman. So apparently, I've heard this through other people that one counselor, the Lander, as well as Jeffrey Borzello, have given you crap over your number 1 all-time movie, which is Shawshank Redemption. What they don't know is that
Gladiator. Actually, I had Gladiator with them. I had Gladiator and Shawshank close 1A and 1B. So they killed me for Gladiator. I could watch Gladiator, I don't know, 50 times during the year. Like,
what does Counselor Norlander? What movies does Counselor Norlander like to watch?
I don't know. Probably some I don't know, rom-com.
Something awful. I think there's something that we can all agree on is that Norlander probably has horrible taste in movies.
Yeah, I mean, that's a given. That's a given.
We won't accuse Counselor Norlander of watching anything illegal. Counselor Goodman, I'm going to side with you. When he hears this, he might kill me. I'm going to side with you on this. Congratulations. You have won 2 games to 1 in Fanta's Forum. Credit to you. Right. The last
what do I get?
Was
what do I get for this? Is there some award?
Release?
Do I get anything?
You don't get anything, but for the rest of time, John Fanta is going to be judged by the entirety of the internet for the decisions that he made here today.
Yeah, exactly. A taco in Arizona. Definitely a taco of many tacos to come in the final four. Yeah. It's time for Toast of the Night. It's time for Toast of the Night. Jeff Goodman, who you toasting?
I'm toasting Rick Pitino because I just want to make sure he's okay. Like, that's my biggest thing. These quotes are alarming that he's ready to jump in the river or something like this. I'm toasting Rick Pitino because Rick's back, and college basketball needed Rick back at the high major level with these quotes, with these feuds, all of it. Like, I missed this Rick Pitino. I missed this. I actually wanted to further expand back to Rick Pitino and John Calipari again. I don't think it will, but we'll take the Pitino-Hurley feud for now, and we'll be happy with it because, again, I miss like the Jim Calhouns, Boeheim, a lot of these guys that were super quotable, and Rick's about as quotable as it gets.
Yep.
Can I go now?
Yes, go ahead.
My toast of the night goes out to Dalton Connect, who had another unbelievable game. He had 36 tonight on the road at Georgia, 12 of 20 from the floor, 5 of 8 from 3, 4 boards, 3 assists. And it's hard to overstate how good he has been and some of the changes that have resulted with this Tennessee team. I think that Tennessee is a little bit overrated as a top 5 team in college basketball at this point in time, but I think you have to give Rick Barnes a lot of credit for kind of realizing the shortcomings of what his team was the last couple of years and going into the portal and changing it. And while it didn't necessarily work with Justin Gainey, who has not been great so far this year, it has absolutely worked with Dalton Connect, who's playing at an All-American level. He won that game for Tennessee at Georgia. What they basically did down the stretch was they put the ball in Dalton's hands. They put him in a ball screen. They let him rock. They let him cook. They let him do his thing. And you know what? It worked. 36 points. I think he had 10 straight in like a 21-4 run to close the game for Tennessee. Hell of a performance by him. Hell of a win for Tennessee. And credit to Rick Barnes for finding a way to get it done.
I'm going to toast Mark Sears. Back-to-back games, he's combined for 53 points. 53 points. He has shot over 60% from the floor. And he shot 75% from 3 against South Carolina, 40 against Mississippi State. And all of a sudden, don't look now, but it feels like Nate Oates' team might be figuring some things out. They go on the road and beat a defensively solid Mississippi State team. They hung 82 on them. They beat South Carolina. They have now won 5 in a row. Alabama's won 5 in a row since losing to Arizona. And they've got Missouri next on Tuesday. They're at Tennessee, home Auburn. So Alabama has big chances coming up. That home Auburn game is a real opportunity there down in Tuscaloosa. I think they're evolving. I think I'm going to toast Sears. Cheers to you, Mark Sears. You balled out this week, and you're going to have to keep balling out if this Crimson Tide team's going to continue to make noise in the SEC. There it is.
Cheers. There it is.
That's it. Are we back tomorrow at 11? Or at some point
4 o'clock
tomorrow?
tomorrow. 4 p.m. 4 p.m. tomorrow.
Special start time, America. 4 o'clock. You know what's there's only 2 playoff games tomorrow because of the weird Bills. Should the Bills and Steelers have played, Goodman? No.
Yeah, you got to come on. It's football. Play. Although those pictures, man, I don't know how they could have played through that.
Yeah.
Looks absurd.
That was
Absolutely
insane.
absurd. So we're on at 4 o'clock tomorrow, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for us for almost 2 hours. For Officer Valise, Rob Dauster, Jeff Goodman, I'm John Fanta. We'll talk to you for a Sunday afternoon edition of After Dark again tomorrow, 4 o'clock.